Hello and welcome to this session on Consolidations for Infor FMS SunSystems. Consolidations is a module designed and developed by Professional Advantage. Professional Advantage are a close development partner for Infor in relation to SunSystems modules. Professional Advantage produce a number of different tools that work in and around the outside of Sun to produce different functionality, more focused functionality, or different user interfaces where this may be required to enhance your SunSystems solution. All Professional Advantage modules are totally integrated to SunSystems at the deepest level, and there is always a corresponding upgrade path as you move forward through new versions of SunSystems. Consolidations is a powerful ledger data aggregation tool that allows the consolidation of journals in multiple SunSystems business units or servers into a single consolidated business unit. It supports multi-currency conversion, chart and analysis mapping, and produces a detailed audit report on completion. It is an automation that saves time and saves effort. The system has many key benefits. Firstly, a quick implementation due to inherent understanding of Infor FMS SunSystems data, and it saves time in your processing due to the ability to process without any rekeying of the data into your consolidated business unit. It works well on large volumes of data and is very fast and offers a low cost of ownership since it can be administered by your SunSystems administrator or by the person responsible for your consolidated reporting. All processes can be scheduled and they can run at any time, day or night. This means you have a continually up-to-date consolidated report available at any time. Consolidations is very easy to use with one-step run functionality and the ability to color code all of your layers within a consolidation hierarchy to make it easy to identify them. The automation increases levels of data integrity and it fits your corporate structure with unlimited levels of sequencing, currencies, and different ownership models. The output in a consolidated business unit means that the data there for your consolidated report is not just a report. It is data-driven, and therefore you can report historically on that data at any time, and through the audit trail of consolidations, see exactly where the data came from and what led to the results in your consolidated report. The system has full security, applying to users from a functionality or a data level, but also has the ability to roll back data where there may have been a failure during a process. Where this occurs, the system will ask you if you wish to roll back, and if you do, it will remove any journals that is created and roll back to your previous position for you to then repeat the process. Consolidations works well for international organizations, since it works for multi-currencies up to the 4th level within SunSystems, and uses SunSystems currency rates and codes as part of the conversion. Therefore, you can convert a business unit that sits in one currency into your consolidated reporting currency during the process on an automated basis. It supports different chart of accounts and analysis structures that may vary across geographical regions and allows the consolidation of any number of business units. In order to implement consolidations, you would set up a new consolidated business unit or database within your SunSystems environment. This database would have the chart of account and analysis structure required to directly support your consolidated report generation. We would then set up consolidations with all the mappings required to extract journals from your source business units or companies and map them into this new consolidated business unit as part of the process. The journals that it posts will be at exactly the right summary level and in the right structure required for you to then report on them. This means the reports generated from that consolidated business unit would be quick, accurate, and at the level required. There will be less number crunching in this report generation, and you will be sure that the underlying data directly supports the results in your report. Consolidations is not a reporting tool. It is a data aggregation tool that allows you to build a data structure that can then be reported on using any of the SunSystems standard reporting options. I'm now going to talk you through a standard demonstration of consolidations. However, on the screen in front of you, we have a value statement from one of our previous very happy customers. We can log into consolidations using our SunSystems user ID. This is synchronized and will change as those IDs change in SunSystems. Once we've logged into the module, on the left-hand side you will see that there is a group where we can build our hierarchy tree for the consolidations we require within the system. You can see here that I have built a top-level group for my company called Global Medical Inc. Underneath this group, if I expand the tree, you can see I can build as many subgroups as I require. In this case, I have a subgroup for my management consolidation activities and another for my statutory consolidation activities. You can see that at each element in the tree, we can tag either as a type or a percentage ownership, or if this particular part of the tree is multi-currency. The type is a free-form entry. If I expand one part of my consolidation, in this case being the management consolidation, you can see that I've continued to produce subgroups depending on how my organisations are actually organised in my company structure. I have two separate groups being European divisions and the rest of the world. The reason for breaking these into groups within the consolidation hierarchy is so that you can act upon them individually. I could jump into my consolidation at the top level, Global Medical Inc., and run everything below this and it would all occur at the same time. If I jumped in at this level, the management consolidation, both the European division and the rest of the world would be run. By breaking the subgroups down, I could do this again at the European divisions level or at the rest of the world. This is entirely up to you as to how you develop your hierarchy tree. You can see that by having management consolidation and statutory consolidation at the same level within the tree, they are in effect independent of each other. Therefore, I can have a completely separate consolidation set up to work in an entirely different fashion. When I run Global Medical Inc., it would actually run management and statutory. If I ran management, this would not affect statutory and I could run this at a different time if I required. When I expand European divisions, you will see below this I've broken them further into colleges and medical. The company is consisting of colleges and medical parts. By opening one of these subgroups, the colour changes, and this is because we are moving down from the grouping to a rule level. The consolidations tree is designed to work with groups, rules, and steps. When I go to a rule level, in this case I have two colleges, College A and College. This is actually the level at which I am defining a source SunSystems business unit where I'm going to grab data and then I'm going to push that data through to a consolidated business unit. In effect, this is the first level in the tree in which I am actually doing detailed configuration. If I click on College, you will see at this level we are also retaining an audit trail of the processes that have occurred at that level within Consolidations. So for this college, you can see that we were grabbing data from the business unit PKP within SunSystems and from the actual ledger, and then we were moving that data when we ran the consolidation across into the database TST, which is my consolidated business unit I've set up in SunSystems for this purpose. Below this, we can see each batch that has been generated historically. Each batch is given an audit ID, a date and a time, and you can see the range of source journals that have been picked up in that batch from the source business unit, in this case being PKP or college, and then the journal that has been used to post that into my consolidation business unit, TST. This is a great audit trail and allows you to go back at any time and see precisely what source data generated which journals within the target business unit. On the right hand side, you can also see that we have the ability to rerun any of these batches at any time. This is quite useful in that it allows us to pick up any changes to the data that may have occurred after we ran a batch. For example, if you had changed analysis codes in one of the source journals using SunSystems account allocation, maybe you had changed allocation if this was part of your consolidation, or indeed, if you were doing a journal-based consolidation, it may be that you have back-posted a journal into a particular period and therefore wish to pick that up now and bring it into your consolidated data. The way in which we configure rules allows us to control whether or not it will be period-based or journal-based when we run the system. If I delve a little deeper and expand college, you will see that underneath this we have steps, and this is where we configure the detail information around what accounts, analysis, journals, etc. will be grabbed from the source business unit and moved into the target business unit. If I click on one of these steps, you will see that the screen then shows me the config for that step. The config is broken into source and target activities. At source, we're defining which journals will be picked up from the source business unit, and at target, how those journals will be posted into the target business unit. In source, you can see that we have some very common selection criteria that most SunSystems administrators will find easy to understand to define which journals we're going to pick up. I can pick up based on account types. In this case, I'm using balance sheet accounts because this step is designed for dealing with balance sheet. And then below that, if I wished, I could choose from a range of accounts in my SunSystems source business unit, or indeed a cherry-picked range of accounts if they were non-contiguous in the background. If I then close this, you can see that below we have a summary information, and this allows us to control how the journals will be posted when they hit the target business unit. If I do not summarize this particular element, it will mean that all transactions in my source business unit are moved across and posted at the same level into my target business unit. By summarizing, I can decide which balances will be moved across. So for example, in this case, I'm picking up balances by account code and period because this is what I wish to report on when I actually report from the consolidated business unit. It is very simple to move different elements across to the right-hand side when they need to be summarized by that. If I move on to the other tabs, we can pick based on different currency codes in the source business unit, and also based on journal types from the source business unit, and ledger analysis dimensions or T codes. If you wish to use the ledger analysis dimensions, when you hit the drop down, it will show you the analysis as they are set up in SunSystems in the source business unit. You could also use account or A code dimensions in order to do this selection. Moving across to the target business unit, this is where we decide how the journals we've picked up from source will be posted into the consolidated business unit. And if you imagine, each of these fields are actually a journal field in that journal we're going to post. So for example, we need to decide a journal type that will be used to post this data into the consolidated business unit, and that could be one from that business unit or a defined one such as CON. We define the journal source and what reference will be used. You could actually use a set reference such as Consolidations, or maybe bring some of the data from the source business unit and post this into this particular field in the target journal. You can see here we can map based on T codes or ledger analysis dimensions, but also map in things such as database codes, account codes, journal line numbers, etc. Dates and periods can also be mapped, and you can take data into the target business unit using the current date or using the date that it originally existed in within the source business unit, and indeed also take it either to the source period or to the current period in the consolidated business unit. Description is self-explanatory, but one of the most important codes is actually the account code. How are we mapping the data between our two business units? Maybe the chart of accounts are different, maybe they're the same. If they're the same, you may wish to use the source value option. This means that any data posted to a certain account at source will be posted to the same account at target. So for example, account 100 would go to account 100. This is typical if the chart of accounts is the same in your consolidated business unit. However, in most cases, there will be variances between the two, so we need to set up some mapping. If we hit the drop down, one of the options here is account mapping. This means that we will refer to a mapping table that we have set up separately for the purposes of the consolidation. Where this setting is used, if I go up to the maintenance option, you can see that under mapping, we can define a source business unit and a target business unit, and this will then show us the account mapping we have set up. So in this case, account 11,000 data in the source business unit will be posted into account 18,000 in the target business unit. We can set up as many rows in this mapping table as we like, and we can also import them from a CSV file for ease of administration. I'm going to set this back to use the source value for my account code. Over on the right-hand side, we have a number of fields which are representative of ledger analysis dimensions or T codes in our target business unit. So in effect here we are actually deciding what data will be posted into our T codes at each level, so T0, T1, T2, etc. You may wish to bring across the same data as resides in that T code in the source journal. So for example here, source database code could be changed to source value. This means that if I had something sitting in ledger analysis dimension 0 in the source data, it will be posted exactly the same into ledger analysis dimension 0 in the target data. More commonly, the ledger analysis dimensions vary because some may not be needed in the consolidated reporting database. Therefore, you may wish to use these fields to map other data, such as the journal line and source number that came across from the source data, or maybe even tag one of your T codes with the source database code. This is quite useful, since when you post the database code into a T code in your target data, you may wish to use vision reporting to break out your data in the source database from your consolidated database. This way you can report on the source data without having to go and look at the source database itself from the consolidated database. This is one of the more useful functions for T-code mapping. Each T-code can be set up to be mapped differently, or indeed a set code from the target business unit can be applied. Moving down to the fields below this, we can see that you are able to bring across allocation data from the source database, and also, of course, you can decide which amounts are going to be transferred. These are very important fields because this is related to the way it works with multi-currency as well as other elements. So for example, in SunSystems we have a number of different amount fields. We have the base amount for the business unit, maybe a transaction currency for the business unit, and then some other things such as reporting amounts, memo amounts, and value for amounts. These values are standard SunSystems functionality and may or may be not used within your organization. Commonly, you are going to want to post something into the base amount value in the consolidated business unit. If you wanted to bring across the base amounts as they exist within the source business unit and post these into the target business unit, you would use something such as the sum of the base amounts from source. This means that balances, based on the other selections you have made, will be posted into the base amount field. Alternatively, you could choose to bring across a transaction currency, such as the sum of the other amounts being transaction currency in the source database. If you did this, you perhaps would like it to do a conversion and post back the correct values into the base amount of your consolidated business unit using SunSystems conversion functionality and rules. If you've set it up in this way, you can decide which conversion codes you're going to use and therefore which values will be applied from a number of different options. These would all be set up and worked out as part of the design of your consolidation implementation. Consolidations is fully multi-currency and complies to SunSystems currency conversion operations. Once I have set up my target posting, we may wish to put in some comments to explain why this particular rule is being set up in a certain way, so I could here enter something that will mean something to people who looked at it at a later date. You may also decide to use the eliminations tab to strip out some of the data as it comes across. So for example, if I've chosen a range of accounts at source and I wanted to ignore one particular account, I could put that account in here and it will be stripped out as part of the process. I'm now going to step away from my balance sheet. I won't save any data that I've changed, and you can see that each step is set up depending on what type of thing you wish to achieve in the step. Commonly, you may find you have steps for balance sheet, creditors, debtors, and profit and loss. This is typical because those accounts perhaps need to be dealt with in a different fashion as they come across into your summarized data structure. You may, however, find that you have many more steps under a particular rule, depending on how you deal with certain data such as assets, intercompany accounts, etc. There is no limit to the number of steps you can set up in order to work out the structure in the correct fashion for your organization. Once you have defined each of these levels, you now have groups, rules, and steps for colleges, college A. You can see that you're able to produce the same sort of structure for every part of the tree depending on what you wanted to do. In this case, you can see I've used a pretty standard structure across the board for each of my areas. The administration of consolidations means it's quite easy to set up new steps or new rules. You could do this from scratch very easily. So for example, on the colleges here, if I right-clicked, I could actually say New Rule and go and define a new rule here and data in relation to this, such as the source business unit, the target business unit, etc. An alternative way of setting up a rule would be to take data you already have and edit it slightly. This speeds up the configuration process. So for an example, if I took college, right-clicked, and decided to copy that, I could post it back into my colleges group here, and that would then allow me to have a copy of everything that was under college, so we include the steps, etc. when this copy is done. Once I've done that, I could rename this to, let's say, something else. So in this case, I'm going to take out college and define it as college X. And I've now got a new step that is configured precisely the same as my previous step. I could, however, perhaps go in, edit the rule, and change the source business unit to be something different. This means that there is minimum activities that you need to change any particular step, and you can do this with whole parts of the tree. So for example, I could take colleges and copy that down into the rest of the world, etc. As many as you want, as often as you want. You can also do this by dragging the elements. If you wish to turn off part of the tree at any stage, you're able to do this by right-clicking on it, going to the tree view and saying Set as Inactive. When this occurs, this will disappear from the tree, but will still reside in the background, and then it will not be picked up next time you run the consolidation. You can then view those nodes that are inactive and return them to active status at any stage. So, having configured consolidations, and as you can see, really it is quite a repetitive process, but it is quite simple to achieve as long as you know your consolidation structure. In order to run a consolidation, it is a very simple ongoing process. So for example, if I wanted to run a consolidation for colleges, maybe for a particular college here, maybe College A for example, all I would need to do is jump into the tree at that level and click the green button. This would then tell me which period I'm about to run, and this is because that part of the tree is set up as a period-based consolidation. You can see that I've already run period 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and therefore naturally it will assume I wish to run period 8 as my next consolidation. If we were running a journal-based consolidation, where it just picks up any journals it has not considered previously, this option would not appear. Typically, journal-based is the more common consolidation method. When I click OK, the system will run through and tell me if there is any data that it has found, and in this case you can see it is run successfully. However, no data was actually picked up since no new data has been posted since the last consolidation run. If I go into College A and do the same thing, we may well get the same result. However, in this case, you can see that the data has actually picked up something new in period that has just run. The first report Consolidations produces at this stage is a validation report. If I expand the report and show you this information, you can see that the system will actually validate within the target and source data to ensure that all the references are actually set up correctly as part of your configuration. In this case, it is telling me that in my target business unit, TST, when it attempts to post a journal, there is a T0 ledger analysis code that I am tagging with the PKP value being my source business unit code. This code does not exist in my target business unit, so the system is telling me that I may wish to create it in order to have accurate data. The same thing could go for any missing account codes or accounts that have been mapped incorrectly. This is a very valuable report as part of your consolidation process. When I close this report, it will now display a second report that shows me the actual data that it has picked up and what it has transferred as part of my process. If I expand this report, you can see that it is showing me everything in relation to this particular rule based on a step-by-step level. I've got one entry for my balance sheet step, my creditor step, debtors and profit and loss. You can see it has picked up data from period 7, as that is the period I chose. It's showing me the number of source transactions in the source business unit that it's picked up, and the number of target transactions it has posted. You can see here the values are different because I actually have the data set to be summarized, and therefore the number of transactions are reduced during the process. It is also showing me the journal number it has used in the consolidated business unit to post my data at that level. Consolidations is integrated to Sun and posts journals instantaneously at the database level with all the correct validation. There is no interfacing or file movement to worry about. You can see here it then shows me the source balance it picked up and the target balance that it has posted. This report will be generated for every level in the tree depending on where I jumped into the tree. So for example, if I close this, you can see that if I had actually run this at the colleges level, when it produced the report, it would show me the entries for the college, College A and College X when it was run. If I decided I wished to run this at a higher level, it would actually pop up with any messages that were required depending on what I had chosen. So for example, if I run this at the college level, it will first of all pop up for the first rule, then the second rule, then the third rule. In this case, it's showing me data for one of those rules or multiple rules depending on what was picked up. The system does have some more complex abilities in relation to joint venture ownership. If we wanted to do a joint venture or part ownership, when we're configuring a step at the target level, we can actually decide that we only want to take a percentage of the data across from the source data. If I had changed this from sum of business units to calc on base amount, I could then here say multiply and change this to be 0.5. This would mean that now only 50% of my source data would be brought across in terms of value, and therefore this could be a part-owned 50% joint venture. Obviously, there is a way in the system of actually balancing journals out if you're only taking part of the data. This is configured at the top level under Options, where we have a number of options that we can set at a global level. Things such as delete transactions if you cancel the process, include any transactions from suspended accounts, but most importantly here we can see balance by journal and period in target database. This allows us to automatically generate a balancing journal where maybe I've only defined to grab a certain proportion of the balances from my source business unit when this is posted into target. Consolidations, while it works across business units, can also work across multiple servers. In this case, I have 2 servers set up. If I had an organization where I had regional servers defined in different countries running separate applications of SunSystems, I could still consolidate across those servers to my head office server wherever that may be, as long as there are SQL database links between the two. Consolidations is a very powerful tool that allows a quick, accurate, and automated aggregation of journals across your business units and across your server. The reporting functionality on that consolidated database where the aggregated data has been posted is performed using standard SunSystems reporting functionality, such as Q&A for SunSystems. Within Consolidations itself, there are 1 or 2 reports that are available in relation to rule selection and account mapping. The system is designed to report on the functionality it is doing rather than on the actual data. The actual data is through your SunSystems reporting function. For example, if I run the rule selection report, this will show me data in relation to the rules that I have configured within the system. You can see here this makes it easy to understand the configurations options that are being used at each part within the tree. We also within the system have the ability to report on things such as the account mapping between business units and servers. In this case, if I have a look between PKP and PST, you'll see that we actually show the report and account mapping that we were looking at earlier. This is the basic functionality of Consolidations. It is very easy to administer, quick to set up in relation to other systems, and much more cost effective in terms of return on your investment than actually investing in a large business intelligence system where data needs to be extracted outside of your SunSystems environment and complex reports need to be written. It is automating things that you currently may be doing in spreadsheets and removing the fragility involved in that process. In order to automate Consolidations, we can do this by going to the maintenance create command line function, and here we can choose a part of our consolidation tree. Once we've done that, we can generate a command line that can then be attached to any server for scheduling such as the SQL server or indeed just a Windows scheduler. This means that you can have your consolidation run at any time, day or night, and then come back in and find your data is already consolidated. Should you require any further information on Consolidations for Infor FMS SunSystems, please feel free to contact us or visit our website at www.professionaladvantage.co.uk.